Good morning and welcome back to the Broadcast Retirement Network. I'm Jeff Snyder. This is BRN AM for Monday, March 29th, 2021. And here are today's top stories: what reopenings mean to U.S. cities and what the migration from larger cities means to smaller cities. Well, joining me now to discuss this and a lot more is Shane Grimm. He's Director of Planning for the city of Havre de Grace, Maryland. Shane, great to see you again. Thanks so much for joining us on the program this morning.
Thanks for having me, Jeff. It's great to see you again as well.
Yeah, so last time we chatted, we talked about COVID, the impact to the city of Havre de Grace, people of Maryland. Let's fast forward a little bit. I wanted to use this first segment to talk about what reopening is looking like or will look like for the city of Havre de Grace.
Well, we reopened once previously when the numbers were looking really good. And then obviously the numbers went in the direction that we didn't want, so we closed down again. So we've been closed for several months to the public. And just 2 weeks ago, we did reopen to the public, and it's gone very well. We're very thankful in the city of Havre de Grace, especially with the administration and our human resources director, who have gotten most of us vaccinated. So from a city perspective, being in City Hall, I feel very safe, and I think the public feels very safe as well.
In terms of, and we're going to get into migration in the second segment and what that means from big cities to small cities. But what does this mean in terms of business owners? You've got restaurants, breweries, travel agencies, real estate salespeople, all different types of vocations in the city of Havre de Grace. What does it mean for them to be able to reopen and get vaccinated?
Oh, it means a lot. It means a lot that we can begin to draw people back to our city. We are a tourist attraction in the state of Maryland, and we're starting to broaden our scope to more people from out of state are coming to Havre de Grace. But it allows those businesses to really operate at more capacity and generate more business for the city of Havre de Grace. We're lucky that with the restaurants, we were able to accommodate them last year with outdoor seating in what was typically parking spaces or roadways that have been blocked off. But those businesses also are enjoying the benefit of the city being reopened from a government perspective, because as we all know, Zoom meetings can be challenging when you're really trying to discuss difficult issues or topics. So the ability to have face-to-face meetings with those folks, real estate folks, developers, consultants, that makes the process a lot easier. And also we have reopened to our commissions as well. So to have our commissions in person and people being able to present to them in person is a lot easier and more efficient.
Yeah, it's really hard to lean over to your colleague and whisper something in their ears on Zoom. I still, that is an important part of a meeting, be able to write something down or confer with somebody. Really hard to do. I guess you could do that, kind of type to them. Let me ask you, Shane, how about police, firefighter, emergency personnel? They're a vital part of the community, any community, in terms of protecting us from, protecting us in general, but also putting out fires, making sure that we're safe. How are they responding to what's happening?
They've done an excellent job, and they've also been able to get vaccinated early in the process. So, they're very important. They're our first line. First responders on the scene. So you want to make sure that they are safe, and most of them were vaccinated very early on in the process. And of course, they've all been equipped with all the appropriate safety items to be out in the field and dealing with crowds and just dealing with their everyday issues that they may encounter. So very safe, and we've been very proactive. City Hall is right next to the police department, and we've been very proactive whenever there is an issue related to COVID. If we have a staff member, there's immediate contact tracing. So we've been very lucky in the city with staff that it's been really controlled and maintained. And that also is in the police department, because if you have your whole police department go down because you haven't taken the proper precautions, then you're going to be in a world of hurt.
Yeah, absolutely. You're opening yourself up for crime and disputes, and you can't rectify all that. It makes it very difficult from a staffing perspective. Shane, you mentioned tourism. Have you seen tourism kind of perk up? Obviously, you had the lockdown around the country, lockdown in Havre de Grace, other cities in Maryland across the country. Have you seen tourism begin to pick up? I mean, Maryland's a great, look, I'm biased. I'm from Maryland, I'm from Baltimore. Know Havre de Grace real well. It's a great place to visit, great people. Are you seeing tourism pick up?
Absolutely. We are a city that's known for our events, as well as our wonderful waterfront and restaurants. So we really missed having our events last year. I forget the total number of events that the city of Havre de Grace has on any given year in a normal year. But we're starting to get back into that. And our mayor has said that with proper safety measures and protocols, we will get back to that this year. And in fact, we had what's called the Ice Festival, which has been going on for the last 2 or 3 years. And we had a lot of people in town last weekend. And from what I heard, most people were playing by the rules and being safe and precautious. Unfortunately, it was a little bit warm weather, so the ice sculptures didn't last very long. But we are certainly seeing people wanting to get out and walk around our great city. And of course, we have a wonderful promenade that is beautiful to walk. So we're seeing a lot of people wanting to get out.
Yeah, look, I think people are really anxious to get out. They want to spend money. They want to go to the restaurants and see and to the events. I mean, I think people are by and large hungry for that. I guess last question for you in this segment, Shane, and that is when we talked, Havre de Grace is still in this boom. You're doing a lot of real estate, a lot of expansion, a lot of investment into infrastructure, and you were still building. Construction companies who had permits, I think, were allowed to build. How has COVID changed going forward the city's just planning focus? I mean, has it changed some of the core principles by which you're looking to expand? Are you adding some different health regulations to deal with potentially circumstances like this in the future?
Now, we really haven't thought about how COVID is affecting new development. I think that is going to be a little bit later down the road. And I think where it really is going to come into play is not so much the development that we're seeing right now, which is typically single family homes or townhomes. I think where you're really going to see that, and I've heard some chatter in the planning world and the building world, is more with high density development. How do you deal with apartment buildings? How do you deal with condos? And I know that there are people out there or firms out there that are looking at how do you have those denser developments, but still make them safe, make sure ventilation is appropriate and all, and that we're not creating a situation where it's a COVID hotspot, or for that matter, going forward in the future, a hotspot for any of these types of viruses, which may impact us have greater impact in the future.
Yep. Well, Shane, I want to take a very quick break. When we come back, we'll talk to Shane about planning for migration, people moving out of the big cities to smaller cities like Havre de Grace and others. You're going to want to stay tuned right here on BRN AM. Imagine a new television network that will make you richer, healthier, and in control of your financial future. This network is for the policewoman in Nashville, Tennessee, the baker in Dubuque, Iowa, the teacher in Lexington, Kentucky. We want to make the idea of savings and retirement culturally relevant. But what do you see as a defining issue of the midterms, especially for the smaller businesses? I mean, they are the lifeblood of the American economy. Featuring exclusive interviews, current affairs, and docuseries. 33 years old, you retired early.
The philosophy is money only matters if it helps you live a life that you love.
But you got to start thinking about retirement as soon as you get in.
The Broadcast Retirement Network will drive very high engagement with premium partnerships. So this isn't retirement and savings for your parents or grandparents. This is for all Americans. And we're going to change the way you think about money. Welcome to the next frontier of retirement and savings. This is BRN, the Broadcast Retirement Network.
Are you stuck with a low credit score? A credit report and score that's causing you to be denied credit or pay higher interest rates than others for the same things? Then do what Terrence did and call Credit Repaired for your free credit evaluation to help restore your credit.
I started thinking about buying a new house, and my score wasn't where I needed it to be. I called and spoke with one of the representatives, and we just had a good conversation, and I liked what he was saying.
Just one call for his free credit evaluation was all it took to start back on the track to repairing his credit.
I'm seeing the deletions and I'm getting the report, so I know something's being done. It does make a difference to me.
All it takes is one call to get started.
Credit Repair has given me a second chance to have a better credit score.
Don't let a low credit score hold you back another day. Do what Terrence did and make the call for your free credit evaluation.
Call 800-819-4152. That's 800-819-4152. Again, 800-819-4152.
Welcome back. We're talking to Shane Grimm. He is Director of Planning for the City of Havre de Grace. Shane, thanks so much for staying with us again this morning.
Yes, sir.
And I just want to acknowledge that I know you are very passionate. You have done planning for many, many, many years. I think you actually have a master's in public administration, or at least are working on one. Zoning is a passion of yours.
Correct. Yeah, I'm working towards my master's degree. Lots of work there, but yes, zoning is a passion of mine. I've been in the field for about 20 years. Started out at the county level and came to the city of Havre de Grace about 3 years ago, and I really love the municipal side of planning.
Yeah, and you, by all accounts, we can see that. We can hear the passion in your voice. Shane, let's talk about what's happened over the last now year. A lot of people moved out of some of the big cities, New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, those are just to name a few, and migrated because of COVID, or maybe just wanted to have a change in lifestyle to cities like some of the smaller cities like Charlotte and Havre de Grace. What does this mean let's start with, what does this mean from a planning perspective? How do you look at the migration that's happening?
Sure. Well, I think anyone would say we would never want to have a situation like COVID. But if there were any benefits for the city of Havre de Grace because of COVID, is that people are now looking at moving out of larger cities or larger urban areas to smaller urban areas. And Havre de Grace is really benefiting from that. We're seeing a real uptick in new development and also in what I call infill development in our older downtown areas where there are either vacant lots that have been there for a while or demolitions and new construction. But we're seeing a real influx of people, especially from New York, New Jersey, those areas, coming down to Havre de Grace and either having another new home or a vacation home. But certainly people are really moving out of those cities and trying to find cities like Havre de Grace that are quaint, offer a lot of attractions and amenities. And we have that in spades. So it is really a great time for us as far as moving forward out of COVID.
Shane, what does this mean for real estate planning, zoning, and maybe real estate prices? I would assume, we've talked on this show regularly about real estate at a national level, at a macro level, and from all indications, people relocating can drive up the cost of real estate, also putting pressure on infrastructure. What are your thoughts there?
Well, that's a great point and great question. So the city has really experienced this exponential growth or infill growth in town that is really driving up the price of new homes and renovations. And what we have seen in the city is a number of renovations that really have kind of surprised us. And they are renovations of older homes, 1800s homes that now are bringing anywhere from $600,000 to $900,000 in certain areas of town. And so we've been really impressed. So the home prices have increased exponentially and just in the last year. And as far as values, property values in this region, the assessed values for residential properties has gone up by 8%, and commercial property values have gone up by 2%. So we're really seeing that. We're seeing prices go up. But you're correct, there is a lot of pressure, and we have been actively going out with our Department of Public Works and replacing old sewer lines. Unfortunately, like a lot of cities, we still have some water lines that date back to the Teddy Roosevelt administration. You wouldn't believe that, but in a lot of places, people are served by infrastructure that is well over 100 years old. So we deal with that challenge of having to replace that and the costs that go along with that. So it is a challenge, but right now we're growing within our boundaries. We're not growing outside as much. So it's really an exciting time for the city, and we have so many attractive amenities here, a brand new middle high school, and just so many things going on that are really bringing those people and driving up those prices.
Yeah, and if I recall correctly, you have a new hospital as well, if I'm not mistaken.
No, unfortunately, our hospital, we have an older hospital that was supposed to relocate within town. Unfortunately, it is relocating to Aberdeen, which while we're disappointed that it is leaving, in fact, it's only 5 miles away. And the unfortunate part is we're losing a hospital, but we were going to be losing a hospital anyways, even if it stayed in town, because they were no longer going to be a full-scale hospital. They were going to be called what is a freestanding medical facility. Mm-hmm. So they don't have all the services of a typical hospital. So in some sense, we were losing a hospital anyways.
Shane, what does this mean for all these people moving in? I would assume that there is a lot of business opportunity. You mentioned, I think we talked about hotels, mm-hmm. Hotels interested in coming in for the tourism, but I got to think that breweries, restaurants, all different types of businesses, bakeries, all different types of establishments would be really interested in coming in. Are you seeing that kind of keep up with the demand? Because obviously with COVID regulations in place and not being able to be at full capacity, you could see some people like waiting in line mm-hmm. for getting a table at a local restaurant.
Right. Yes, and if you're ever in town, speaking of bakeries, you need to try Gall's Bakery, which has been in town for over 100 years, and I think they even use the same equipment to make cookies that they did 100 years ago. So try that. But no, we're
good plug, Shane.
We're very excited for our first brewery in town, which will be opening up in a couple of weeks. I worked actively with them and prior to them to try to have regulations that encourage and incentivize those businesses to be able to come in easily and slip into downtown, and that's what we're doing. One of the things that we've needed for a long time, which I may have spoke about on the last episode I was on, is we're really kind of desperate for a hotel, or what I call a boutique hotel. And I'm really hopeful we have a unique opportunity with several parcels on the waterfront that if they can be combined, we're very hopeful that they'll consider some type of mixed use development that incorporates a hotel, at least a mid to high end hotel that would accommodate all of the events that we have and weddings. We're a big town for weddings, but we've also had new restaurants open up. We have a new restaurant on the north end of town, which is exciting. So it's all good stuff going on here.
Last question about, we talked about public safety in the first segment about their COVID vaccines. With all this influx of people, does the city see the need to possibly think about expanding those public services to make sure that as the number of people come into the town and swell the number of the population, that you need more police, firefighters, and other people to support that?
Yes, that's always a challenge, and especially in this day and age, keeping your police force and trying to get new recruits to come in. So that's a challenge that we always face every day here. We always have either people are retiring and trying to bring in new police force members. Same thing with the fire department and all. It's not the same as it was, say, 30 or 40 years ago, where there were more people active in those organizations. But yes, with the influx of people, we definitely need to reevaluate our services regularly to make sure that we can provide them. Luckily, our fire department is one of the best in the nation with response times for a city of this size. So we're very lucky there. But it is definitely a challenge, and any city knows that keeping up with infrastructure and those services, it can be a challenge, especially in these times.
Yeah, and I just want to stress before we leave the episode, that's the importance of benefits, the pension plan, some of the health benefits that you get. If you want to attract police, firefighters, other workers to work in this capacity, you need to have the benefits. Well, Shane, we're going to leave it at that. I know you could talk for hours, but it has been a joy to catch up with you about a very important topic. Shane Grimm, Director of Planning for the City of Haverty Grace, I should say. Thanks so much for joining us, and we look forward to having you back on the program again very soon.
Great. Thank you, Jeff.
And that wraps up this episode of BRN AM. have a topic of interest, someone you think we should talk to, then drop us a line. And don't forget, for all the information in retirement markets, technology, personal finance, so much more all in one place, check out today's edition of our newsletter, The Morning Pulse, and of course, our website. We're back again tomorrow for another episode. So until then, I'm Jeff Snyder. Stay safe, keep on saving, and don't forget, roll with the changes.
Are you being audited and do you owe the IRS $10,000 or more in back taxes? Is the IRS threatening to take more of your money? Don't fight the IRS alone. The Tax Doctor is here to help you negotiate your tax bill and reduce your stress. The IRS can freeze your assets and seize your bank accounts, but you can stop these IRS actions. The Tax Doctor will work with you using our years of experience to represent your case to help you get the best resolution under the IRS guidelines. Help is here to deal with the IRS to reduce your stress. We've handled thousands of cases, so we know what we're doing. If you owe $10,000 or more in back taxes, do not call the IRS alone. Call a Tax Doctor now for a tax emergency analysis.
Call 800-224-6439.